Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first of two HRTM industry forums on the response to COVID-19. My name is Charlie Partlow. I'll be the co-monitor for this session. My other partner is Dr. Robin DiPietro. You see her picture there. If at any time you have a question that you want to ask, you can use the chat box at your screen, and Robin will read those out loud. We're going to keep your audios muted so we don't get any background noise, but I believe we can see your pictures if you want to ask a question later on and handle it that way. Before we get started, let me introduce our esteemed panelists today who will be helping us in this discussion. First, we have Bill Dukes. Bill is a longtime partner of the HRTM school, and he is owner of Blue Marlin. We also have Holly Penny. Holly's general manager of the Marriott Courtyard Columbia property. She's a bachelor's graduate and a master's graduate of the HRTM school. And then we also have Clete Myers. He's district manager for Aramark. Aramark has the food service contract here on the UofSC campus. So with that said, we'll just get started with the first question. And Bill, I'm going to throw this out to you first. What strategies is your business using during this COVID-19 pandemic and the shutdown and limited service that we have going on right now?
Well, we have, as you may know, we have three operations. We have a catering company, and we have the Blue Marlin and another restaurant in Lexington. The catering actually is doing pretty well right now. We picked up some new business, and that's seniors, foods, food prepared for the seniors population. So that's okay. But the Blue Marlin and the other restaurant, we lost about 90% of our business, whenever we closed down. And we have made an effort to transition to curbside. We don't have the drive-through, but curbside has been okay. But again, with a casual dining restaurant and a restaurant like the Blue Marlin and many restaurants similar to Blue Marlin, customers really come to our restaurant for the ambiance and the experience. And the curbside is just not an exciting, thing for people to say, I'm going to pick up some curbside at Blue Marlin. They would rather come to Blue Marlin to enjoy the experience. So it's been a challenge. It's really difficult. And so as a result, I'm very anxious to have the opportunity to reopen and show the customer that, we're ready to go, and with one thing in mind, and that's the health and the safety of our customers and our employees.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Now, Holly, your business is open, but I know your occupancies are probably down. How is the Marriott Courtyard Columbia dealing with this?
Well, we had to make drastic changes, to our cleanliness, like the chemicals that we were using to make sure that we're using something that if we came in contact with COVID-19, that it would actually kill it. The chemical that we had in place from Ecolab was not one that actually worked on COVID-19, so we switched that up. Staffing is completely down. However, we do have a group in-house that maintains with the military, so that's helped. I would say that the average housekeeper is getting about 10 to 15 hours a week. Restaurant is completely shut down. We are serving to the military, but that is on a cook-to-order basis. They put in their order, so we plate them. We have one manager that's cooking all of that. Staffing at the front desk, hourly employees completely down to 0 hours per week, with management and sales team running the whole show. Okay. So we have completely changed everything. I mean, we've locked down floors. We're down, we have nine levels, and we're down to 3 floors.
Okay. Okay, and Clete, you're with Aramark, and I know the University of South Carolina campus is shut down, so I'm assuming there's no food service at all. Can you speak to what Aramark is doing? Maybe not if this campus, but in other accounts?
Um, yeah, I can. Obviously, in our healthcare division, that business is doing well. But Aramark as a whole, the company is being impacted greatly, not only from the higher ed side, which I'm on, but also we're a major player in the sports and entertainment business. We're the largest provider in Major League Baseball and the NBA, as well as most of the national parks. So obviously, if you're looking at a whole, this is impacted, and also the business studies side is impacted as well.
Okay.
Obviously here on campus, with the students leaving, we had to lay off about 600 employees, and then furlough a large portion of our management team. So right now we have a few essential managers that are working. We are providing box lunches to essential employees that are still working on campus. We do still have a few students that we're feeding on campus. So there were actually at one point a few students that were quarantined on campus that we were taking care of as well. But a lot of our time right now was spent looking at what is it going to look like when we come back in August, and how our services will change, what our staffing models will be like, what our menus will be like. Are there other options out there for to go, pick up, delivery, things like that, so that everybody knows when you come to Russell House, that place is packed. How are we going to manage those crowds when they come? So really, that's kind of where we are, and working on those things. Pretty much really heavy right now. So a lot of planning committees with the university.
Okay, well, Clete, you bring up a good point, kind of leading us to our next question. But before we go to that, Robin, does anybody else out there, have you gotten any chats? I know it's kind of early on, but if anybody else wants to share, please do so now.
Yeah, there is one question out there. This question is for Holly. Do your employees wear masks and gloves, and is there protection, or did you do something different for protection for the front desk agents?
Well, yes, we from the beginning, before COVID-19, can you see me?
Nope. We can see your name. There we go.
There, it keeps popping back up. I don't know, like a little issue. Okay.
There you go.
So before this, we strongly promoted gloves, not mask, but gloves. So our housekeeping team and kitchen staff constantly wear gloves, but we did add mask to the entire staff. So if you're working, you are provided a mask, gloves, and we have sanitizer everywhere, and promoting washing hands very often, especially, with the in and out of the military group. We just want to make sure that they take every precaution necessary.
Okay.
Could I make a comment regarding the mask and gloves?
Sure.
Well, so I've got a issue, and we're really debating this right now and trying to get some guidance from DHEC. We believe that the mask will be a good signal to our customers as we reopen. As far as the long term, I hope that we're not required to do that. We'll do it as long as the customer, gives us that feeling that, that makes them feel better and safer. As far as the gloves, I think the gloves are something that's going to be really a bit of conversation. Gloves, just wearing gloves is not going to be the answer. It's not a panacea, because gloves can be as dirty as, your hands that aren't washed. And you can't wash your hands when you've got gloves on.
Right.
And I'm really concerned because as you go through drive-thrus right now and you're transacting with cash or with credit cards, these people are handling, credit card with me, and then they handle the same, person ahead of me. And I don't notice anybody changing gloves. If you're really going to be strict on gloves, then every time you touch something that could be contaminated, you've got to change the gloves again. So we're hoping that, currently the standard is by FDA is that if you're directly handling or touching food, you wear gloves. There's no other requirement by the FDA for gloves. So, so I'm real concerned about that. And I'm sure that's going to be a continued conversation.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, let's move on to the next question about the challenges that the industry will face, and in your businesses in particular, as things begin to open up. And Clete, I want to throw it back to you because you sort of started to give an answer on this. Could you talk a little bit about the planning that you guys are working on now, and what you foresee as some of the major challenges as the students start coming back on campus?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're looking at right now is, particularly as social distancing, keeping 6 feet away is going to be very difficult in some of our operations, as well as self-service items or buffet type services being eliminated, particularly for such large groups, and particularly in facilities that were built to be that way. Of how can we convert those to where they're served facilities, and even thinking about things such as common areas where you would have common beverage stations and all of that. How are those things going to be managed? So we're working on a lot of different plans on how we will address those things. Obviously, food and to-go containers will become probably a big part of the operation, even more so than what it is. We're looking at expanding our relationship with Grubhub to see if we can't even integrate delivery into a meal plan transaction. There's multiple areas we're looking at, even kiosk order, and even simple things. And Bill mentioned just the checkout piece with a credit card. We're looking at potentially going cashless in all of our operations, so we're not handling cash. And so that in credit cards and meal plan transactions would become self-swipe transactions. We're also looking at expanding kiosk operations. So really a lot of that onus would fall on the customer when it comes to ordering. And then also expanding, looking at areas such as, can we expand food trucks, things like that, so that we're able to meet the customer a little bit closer to where either they're taking classes or where they're living.
Very good. Very good. Holly, what about you?
Long-term discussions that are currently being between the corporate office, even Marriott, and National, coming to the owners, how we're going to change cleaning service, from stayovers, especially moving into a higher occupancy. How are we going to clean the stayovers? It's going to be every day. How is it going to be every other day? Is it going to be once a week? That kind of thing. Or are you going to get service as a stayover? Newly checkouts, how we are going to go into a more streamlined cleaning process, so that, just like Bill said, the reuse of gloves. I mean, if you're cleaning one thing, how often should you clean, change your gloves out, wash your hands, change your gloves, wash your hands, change your gloves. So we're looking at that. Kiosk, they're at some of our properties, but it's not at mine. I've got this extremely large desk. I don't know if you've been in there. But kiosk is, having those in the lobby for check-in. We were going into the piece of doing the mobile key, and deployment on that, and they paused it because Marriott furloughed the entire department. So we're transitioning into mobile key. That would be where, some may know, but you check in on your phone through your app, and then you don't even have to come to the front desk. The transaction of your credit card is loaded into your app. You check into the hotel. We tell you through the app what your room number is. You go straight up there. You run your phone by the door lock, and it lets you in. So that whole piece of the front desk interaction would be eliminated, which would be good in this situation. Before COVID-19, wanted to speak to every single guest that came up to the property, but at this point, we are going to have to make those changes. We have mobile chat already, where the guest doesn't have to come down to tell us they need something. They just request it through the app, and we could deliver it to the door without an interaction to the guest. So Those are things that are happening already, and then now we've just got to put it into full gear once we're up and running, enough where Marriott's getting that department back on board.
Well, it puts a new definition on the word hospitality, doesn't it?
Well, yes.
Bill, what
Just
about Blue Marlin?
internally, because of who I am and how I like to run things, I'm going to have to do an internal switch on the interaction. I mean, I constantly, see now I just want to, I'm at the desk working, the front desk, and I don't necessarily, until I know it's about check-in time, I don't see a lot of people in the morning, so I don't put on the mask, and I don't wear gloves until I start seeing those guests, and then that's put everything on. But I catch myself wanting to get, closer and interacting with them, and I've got to scale back. And that's in hospitality, it's going to be difficult for people to do that because it's not who we are.
Right. Bill, how's Blue Marlin going to transition, do you think, once customers are allowed to possibly go into the dining room and sit down and order?
Well, we're going to follow pretty much the broad guidelines, and those guidelines are social distancing. So we have already mapped out our table seating, using the 6-foot, ruling. We're hoping that, our proposal to the governor's staff right now is to allow up to 8 people, to be, seated at a party, up to 8. The other thing that we're really committed to is health screening of our employees, and I think that will reassure the customer. The other one is cleanliness and sanitation and sanitizing. Not only, during when the business closes and opens, but during the business touch points, frequent, sanitizing of customer touch points and employee touch points. We're hoping that I think we're going to be okay to start with, and we're blessed to have outdoor seating. At Blue Marlin, we have that long patio, and we can put tables 6 foot apart and go from, Taylor, or let's say, what is it, Lady Street to Gervais Street, if we wanted to. But it's going to be a challenge. One thing that I haven't heard, but we're looking at right now is, and we're blessed to get on this one, rehiring. There are a lot of employees in the restaurant industry that are making so much money on unemployment and $600 bonuses from the federal government that when we come back and say, okay, we'll rehire you and pay you $12 an hour for 40 hours, that's $480 versus they're making $800. But I tell you what, we had a meeting with key employees a week ago, and I am so proud of what my son has done. We have a great culture. We treat our employees as family. We always have. And we had 18 transparent with them as far as, what their opportunity was with unemployment, et cetera, versus what we could offer them. And what we could offer them was a long-term job. And they all, out of 18, every one of them said, we're in, and we want to come back. So we're very happy there. The other problem that we're going to have is our menu. We're going to have to be very flexible on menu. We're going to probably have paper menu. We will have paper menus to start with because of the food supply chain. There's just, our food suppliers just don't have, the stock of the product right now. So we're going to have to, be very flexible on that. So yeah, those are some of the items.
Okay. Robin, do we have any question chats?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. One is for Holly. And Holly, do you anticipate the guests will expect to see plexiglass glass barriers at the front desk?
That's a good question. You're seeing it at many stores that you go to now, basically all. I just recently went to CVS to grab a card, and and noticed it there. And then they have the tape marked back.
Mhm.
Again, at my desk, it's just, we might put the plexiglass up there. We haven't yet. The discussion's been there, but it hasn't become concrete. And moving forward, I'm not so sure. As soon as, if we get more reports that that's the direction that they want us to go, with Marriott International, with my management company, and local government, DHEC, and the CDC, then yes.
Okay.
But again, the desk that I currently have at my property is extremely large. We have that spacing. Guests, when they're checking in, they're not approaching, the desk straight to the edge. So we do have that spacing in place.
Okay, and one more question from you. Do you see technology advancements like keyless entry or digital key or mobile key becoming a standard?
It is a standard
Okay.
already. Right. So, of Courtyard, I can only speak for Courtyard, but we have over 1,200 courtyards in America. And so obviously you can't roll out 1,200 courtyards at one time. So we were on the stage of the first part of our deployment, and many hotels, I'm not sure what phase we were in as far as, we were the 400th hotel or whatever, but Marriott as a company will be going strictly to mobile key.
Okay. And this last question is for anyone on the panel. It sounds like many employees obviously have been laid off or furloughed. If you were a graduating student, how would you recommend getting into this industry moving forward? What advice might you have for graduating seniors?
Well, I think I'm speaking on behalf of the hotel industry. Corporate offices, and they're going to be growing more from a remote aspect. So revenue management's always going to be there. It's going to be, and right now I speak to my revenue manager almost every day. It's not like you see that the occupancy is changing, but things within the news is changing. So you've got to make adjustments. And we haven't laid off any of our corporate team members from our management franchise company, because we know that when it's time and occupancy is going to pick up, we are going to be here. We've got to adjust, and we've got to make those changes quickly. For a new graduate coming in, I would say looking at a broader picture. I often speak to students that are coming in. They have this this is what I want to be. I want to be a wedding planner. I want to be a sales coordinator. I want to be this. You've got to look at the bigger picture, especially in times like this, and say, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? Look at the jobs that are going to be created because of COVID-19. Things that we didn't think about, and now we're thinking about. So there will be opportunities. They just need to have a broader spectrum rather than being narrow-minded.
Good.
That's a good question for Clete and Bill also. Would both of you like to weigh in on that as well?
Yeah, I will. Just because I went through something recently. Last week we were sent, and we have an A2L program, the S2L program. The A2L is for recent college grads that are moving into our management training program, which is the fast-paced management training program. And then we have the S2L, which is the formalized internship program. And we had slots in both of those. And really they sent it to everybody that was either getting an A2L or an S2L, and saying, hey, do you still want to continue with hiring the person that was slotted into that job, or would you want to delay it? We delayed ours by 1 month, but we are still pursuing it. So I would just encourage, students that are graduating, when you do have the opportunity to interview there on campus, to take advantage of those interviews while they're there, because you really won't have really that opportunity again where you'll have that many employers to where you can really make your decision. So that's really what I would advise.
Good.
Yeah, my comment would be that I would sure encourage the students to approach any job opportunity or offer for them to be extremely flexible at this time. it's a changing world. Our industry is going to be a changing, there's going to be a lot of changes. And if a person says, well, hey, I want to be absolutely this and whatever, you better be willing to come in at the ground floor. If you get the offer, be willing to come in at the ground floor and make your way through the system. Make your way through the system.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I want to move it on to the next question, and I'm going to throw this one back out to Clete, because Clete, I know that you deal with lots of students from all over the world here at UofSC. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, what changes do you foresee in customer behavior, customer trends in the very near future?
That's a good question. I believe people initially will be a little bit apprehensive. I think the human nature is to be a little bit standoffish. So I think it'll take a little bit of time. I think we're just sitting here. We're saying, okay, when our dining rooms do open back up, how do we change that? Do we minimize the amount of seating, or do we eliminate long tables? That type of thing. So I think the customer behavior will probably be maybe I think the growth and we're already seeing growth in to go and pick up, and I think that'll continue. But I do think we're people, we're going to be anxious to get back and hang out with others. So I think over time that people will transition back to some of their old habits.
Okay. And Clete, now you deal with a lot of young people, students, that age group. So my perception would be that they're a little more willing, not quite as scared, I guess, as possibly older generations. And Bill, you obviously, your business is Blue Marlin. In your catering business, you probably have more dealings with, I guess, a more mature market. What changes do you foresee?
Well, let me just say that I'm the eternal optimist. First of all, I am a realist, but I've got to believe that that the consumer, just what Clete said, they're going to need a little bit of time. But we're hoping, and I believe this, over the 25 years we've been in operation, we've built a tremendous amount of trust. So we have we have a big amount in our trust account with our consumer. And I believe that consumer is going to give us a chance when they feel, when we're open and they have that first chance to go out for a dining experience, that they'll go to the places first that they were most loyal to, prior to the virus. And it's then going to be incumbent upon us to provide reassurance to that customer that we're doing all of the things that make them feel safe and healthy and comfortable. And that's where I am. I will say this, there's a lot of concern and discussion about plexiglass, and I'm hearing that through, with the hoteliers and so forth. But let me, because of the people interacting with the guests coming in. Well, imagine, how are we going to implement plexiglass with a server who's going to the table? That's, the customers just have, either we're going to completely change the serving, program, or we're just going to have to trust that the consumer, is eventually going to, accept the fact that, look, the employees that are serving me are safe, they're healthy, the place that I'm at is clean and it's sanitized, and, I just gotta trust that, and I'm optimistic that that's what's going to happen.
Good. Okay. Robin, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we have another question. And then I also just want to make an aside that, Bill, I'm kind of bummed, and this isn't a plug for Blue Marlin, but my birthday's tomorrow, and every birthday for 11 years, I've gone and gotten my 21 pineapple martini and my play. So I will be back.
We will reserve that for you and a slice of cheesecake.
I'll tell you what,
There you go.
I'll be back whether I'm sitting outside on the sidewalk or whether I'm sitting in the dining room. It doesn't matter.
Loving you.
So I will be there. All right, now that I've said that, we've got a couple more questions. So the first question is from one of my outstanding students there, and that is, what will set recent college graduates apart? With so many graduating, what would give us the edge in these uncertain times?
I think going back a little bit of what Bill said, you know, obviously being open, you know, for the opportunities that are out there. And, you know, I think, you know, obviously there will probably be a little bit of time where opportunities are limited, but keep in mind if, you know, 2 or 3 months ago, the opportunities were out there. You know, there were plenty of opportunities available. So, you know, the economy has changed. I believe it will eventually come back, but I think you have to be open to maybe you don't walk into your dream job day one. Maybe take something that gives you some experience that you can build on in the field that you're ultimately want to be in.
Do any of the rest of you think, another comment was, once the industry returns back to the new normal, how will your workforce change? This person recently read about a major shift in the workforce in the hospitality industry. And do you believe that's going to happen? And if so, what do you think it's going to look like?
That's a good question. And, you know, there's a lot of different things. I mean, obviously in our industry, you know, there's been a lot of pressures around salaries and labor, automation, you know, how do you survive, you know, in this new world, you know, in this new economy. And so I think that'll can continue to evolve over time. You know, I think the workforce it's interesting. You know, I saw something about, you know, the different ages in the workforce, but you know, when I walk into our catering kitchen right now, you know, all the chefs are wearing masks, you know, in the kitchen, and they're doing that voluntarily. So, you know, I think it's just going to be a dynamic that changes over time.
I agree with that. Clete, I agree.
Well, that kind of leads us to the next question. What type of skills, new skills, do you see the workforce needing to have during this new normal that we have in our industry? And Holly, I want to ask you first, because you've already brought up some things about technology. Is that going to be more important? Are there other skills? What do you think?
I would say, you know, advanced learning in IT, because hospitality is, I mean, it is going all mobile. And I feel like I'm getting a new set of training modules ready to go for a new advancement that is happening with mobile check-in and mobile guest request and all of the mobile things. Everybody wants things now and they want them quick. So IT would be skills, and I don't have the skills in IT that I should have at this point. So that might be something that that graduates could look into getting some further advancement in. Revenue management, going back to that's not going to change no matter what. In the hospitality industry is only going to increase. So advanced learning in revenue management strategies. I would say that I just recently read an article about Marriott going to a hospital type cleaning system where it sprays, I guess, the chemical in the room entirely. So, you know, advancement in cleanliness standards and things like that are evolving and will continue to evolve through this. So there's, I think, in every aspect of the hotel industry and restaurant industry, I think every bit of it's going to be changing. So new skills and new things have got to, you know, advance as well.
Anyone else?
Well, this is Bill. I'm having a kind of a challenge getting my arms around, you know, what would change in a casual dining environment. I mean, we can't transition to a fast food or a drive-through. You know, we've got to ensure that the customer that we are practicing all of the right things and to give that customer a high level, you know, of confidence and assurance, you know, that when they come to Blue Marlin, you know, that they feel like they're in a safe and healthy, you know, environment. That's what dining out is. We've got some great employees in our kitchen. You know, what can I can't do a lot technologically, you know, to cook the food. Or, you know, robots may be down the road after I'm gone. But right now, and then the comment I made about the servers, you know, that's what people expect. They expect that service. One thing that we're looking at very, very seriously is, and I've already been in touch with my couple physicians, is we believe that one step toward that reassurance and confidence building with the customer would be for us to be able to 90% plus guarantee that our employees are healthy. And that means some form of testing, you know, and that may become one of the things that, you know, is going to become a standard, a new standard as far as employees. I know that's part of our implementation plan is daily health screenings. So we're looking at that. Those are going to be challenges for us. I know that.
Okay. What about from your perspective with Aramark and all their different operations? Have there been discussions about new skill areas for the workforce of the future?
Yeah, I mean, again, we were already headed down, you know, some that path in some regard. And I mean, obviously, it's changed, you know, in my time in the industry already. You know, these years and years ago. I think, you know, you know, I think everybody really focuses really now on, if you're looking at it, you know, quality is obviously big, but you know, speed and the ability for the consumer to customize, you know, options is important. You know, so I think we'll continue to see that. We'll see advances in technology. You know, Bill mentioned the robots in the kitchen. I think, you know, we already are starting to see some of that happen. You know, and on some level, and you know, some colleges even now have robots on campus doing delivery for them. So I mean, we'll see some constant changes, you know, from a technology side, you know, in the industry.
Going back to technology and for Bill, I think that when we're beginning to go back into a restaurant atmosphere, having that mobile check-in or that restaurant reservation, so that you're not having to interact with too many people coming through the door. You go straight to, you know, what table you're going to, you go there. And so it's a limited amount of interaction with possible people that may have COVID-19 or whatever.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's good. That's a good point.
Any questions from the audience, Robin?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions, but also, Charlie, there was a request that I know there's some other industry experts or industry superstars in the group that's on the Zoom meeting now. So I wanted to give just maybe a minute for those people who actually are industry stars out there and want to come in and weigh in on some of the points that we've brought up. Go ahead, and if you're interested in that, turn on your mics and introduce yourself and weigh in, and then we'll get to the rest of these questions as well. Is there anyone on there that wants to chime in to the questions that have been there talked about so far? Okay, crickets. Okay.
I see some that normally like to talk.
Yeah. I saw the name list. I'm surprised there's not more jumping in. All right, so here's what we'll do. If we're sure, I can move on to the next question, but please don't hold back. If you're out there on the Zoom meeting and you want to give us a different perspective or want to chime in, please do. But the next question is, what types of training do you think will be become more common going forward?
Food handling,
Okay.
sanitation, cleanliness. I think a new industry is going to be well, you can't use the term fumigating, but a system to, to fog the restaurants. I understand that there's really been, or there are some places out there now that offer that, and it's food safe. You just go in there and, you fog your restaurant at night, and, the next morning, and it's supposedly it lasts, for a week or so. So, but I just think the food handling on my side is going to be food handling and washing hands.
Yep. Okay.
Simple, but effective.
The most effective.
Most.
For some of you out there who are alumni and maybe you've been furloughed or laid off, do you have any, and this is just kind of a question to the audience, and the panel can weigh in on this also. Do you have any need for any short courses, certifications, training? I'm looking at things that we as a school here at HRTM might be able to provide. I know we do a lot of ServSafe, and we can certainly look at expanding that, but is there anything professional development wise that you have needs for? Please let us know. Any ideas from the panel on this? And we've talked about sanitation. Holly, you've mentioned technology and revenue management too, I guess. Clete, from your end in on-site food service, do you see any professional development needs right now for the industry?
Well, yeah, Bill is, I believe, right, and I think we'll see more of an emphasis on with DHEC, and it was already going that way through employee behavior. So I think there'll be a larger emphasis on that, and I think that'll become a bigger part of the training piece. Me personally, we had some trainings scheduled, with our brands, with Panera, with Chick-fil-A, with Starbucks, and Einstein's, and all of those certification requirements are for the management teams, and that was all to occur this summer. So right now, all of those things have been put on hold, and they haven't determined how they're now going to go through their certification process. So everybody is kind of scrambling a little bit to understand how they're going to do the training so they can have the right certification. So it's interesting because just a lot of things that were just planned and regularly planned to go, everything, with travel restrictions, everything has just really been put a lot on hold. So I think when we do come out of this, I think you're going to see probably a little bit more of an integrated, where it'll be somewhat of an online piece and then maybe a smaller in-person piece when it comes to training and certification.
Okay.
Another couple of questions, Charlie. For any of you, do you think that we will see more employees in the hospitality industry working from home after the industry comes back?
I have currently, my support team is working, and as a matter of fact, I'm talking to you from my laundry room, but my support team, my marketing, HR, finance, all of those functions are working from home. And it's proven to be somewhat effective. So I think their opportunity is probably more so to do that. People in operations, I just don't see how you can really be an effective operator working from home. I think you have to feel and touch the business. I just don't, I think those opportunities would be limited.
Okay.
I agree.
All right.
I agree with that. You got to touch it and feel it. Right.
Okay. And for the restaurant, Bill, do you think we'll see restaurants delivering food on covered trays as opposed to open trays? For example, will trays have large lift-off lids over them to reduce potential exposure between the kitchen and the table?
I don't think so. I don't have that as my, plan, or I don't even have that as a vision for my restaurant. I don't think that right now this virus is not going to be carried, by food. It's supposedly, by touch, from person to person. I tell you what I'm hopeful for, and that is as soon as possible to get a vaccine for this virus, and that's going to give the comfort level, to so many people. But until then, we've got to follow the best practices.
Okay. All right. And another question out to more I guess for anyone. With all the online training courses being offered during this unique time, what certifications will be the most beneficial for people to have, or do you think will provide the best opportunities when the job market opens up again, such as ServSafe, project management, etc.?
Sanitation, cleanliness is mine.
Any extra, bit of education that you can get, I mean, it would help. So, whatever interest you have, if it's more IT, more sanitation, more, if you want to direct yourself to that, or get it all, like if you have all this time to be at home, like utilize that time and get those certifications that will advance you when it's time, when it's go time.
Okay.
Go time, I like that.
We have
I'm ready for go time.
Yeah. We have a comment that we could probably see more strident FDA food safety regulations out in the next revision of the food code that's due out in 2021. They anticipate DHEC will probably follow by requiring all locations that serve food to have all managers have their ServSafe manager certificate. So that's something brought up by Douglas O'Flaherty from the South Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association. And let's see, Marquetta, one of our faculty members, suggested the certification in hotel industry analytics. We're probably going to offer this as well to students, and we might be able to offer it to graduates or industry partners as well. So that will be a win-win, hopefully, for people who want that certification. Where does the panel think wages will go after this event? Many people are now getting bonuses and higher pay. Will we be able to reverse this? That's for the panel.
That's an interesting question. I mean, wages were already going up prior to this event. It's going to be interesting. Right now, we're working with University Housing to try to bring about 120 of our employees back that would go work for University Housing over the summer to help get the residence halls ready to open back in August. So, because we're not going to have summer business. So, it'll be interesting to see how people react when we start making those phone calls, if they're going to be interested in coming back to work. The question is, to me, I mean, obviously there's a lot of, funding out there to help support people, right now. And I understand, just through folks that have been furloughed and laid off through us, there's been a lot of delays in them getting checks as well. It'll be interesting to see 6 months from now if we're in a recession, let's say if wages actually start going down, is a possibility. But I think if we continue on the same trajectory we were on, that we'll continue to see wages grow in the industry, which is needed. I mean, it's been a low-paying industry, and we just need to convince the consumer they got to pay a little bit more as well.
I'm just concerned right now with all the bonuses and the $600 and the unemployment combined, that you're creating a false economy and a false sense of wealth or being okay. And the wake-up call is going to be the end of June, when all those incentives go away, and people are going, just like our employees. I'm just so excited and thankful that they said, hey, we want a long-term job is what we want. This opportunity to make some extra, this big money for 8 weeks, no, I'd rather have a long-term job. So I would, now this is, you talk about thinking outside the box and just really dreaming. I would really, one of the things that hurt many of us in the restaurant business was years ago when they took away the tip sharing. And you talk about a real team concept and a team effort. That was really a team concept and effort. And wouldn't it be nice if we could, do that again? All of our servers would love to do it, but it's just illegal to do. But that would be awesome, and that would put more money in the pockets of some of our kitchen people. But hey, maybe one day we might have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Good point.
Sorry, Charlie, I have one comment and then one question. The comment is, and I think this is a really valid comment. I think it's important to remember that consumer perception is our reality more so now than in the immediate past. Additionally, social media and online reviews will be more prevalent as it relates to how we are serving our guests, as it relates to cleanliness now and that sanitation. So that was the comment. And then the question is related to guest loyalty. Do you see restaurants and/or hotels offering deep discounts or and/or promos to get business back more quickly?
Holly, what about you with Courtyard in the hotel business? Do you see a drop in ADRs and?
Well, we're currently seeing it. We've dropped rates where, a manageable rate, but the demand's not there. So when we start seeing the demand, which they're saying, I think, we'll begin hopefully to see the steady increase end of summer, hopefully. And then that, I think to get the ADR and RevPAR back to where it should be, it's going to take well into a year, 12 to 16 months, I think. So yes, it's gonna set us back in revenues and average rates that we were at. I mean, we were pushing $219 on a regular night downtown Columbia. Back 20 years ago when I was in school, working the front desk, I mean, we were $79. So that's where I am today. And hopefully I won't be that coming out of this. I think, conferences and conventions and all of that's going to completely change for the moment until they see what is the new norm. Gatherings of folks, they just canceled the Elton John concert. They're pushing all these concerts. I think we won't see another concert in Columbia until next year. I mean, who knows with football? I mean, that's all of that is me. All of that is downtown Columbia and hospitality and concerts everywhere and hotels that are driven by that special demand. So things are changing, and we're just going to have to watch and adjust and just do our best to capture what we can, not throwing our rates down too low, because once everybody starts doing it, consumer has the money, just like Bill said, they're all getting all these incentives and everything. They have the money, so there's no need to drop rates drastically.
We don't have any plans to do any discounting or marketing, or try to attract customers through discounting. We really are going to, and I know I keep saying this, we're really going to focus on, reassuring the customer that we're a safe and a healthy place for them to dine. Your comment about perception is reality. The customer is going to we're going to have to be extremely flexible over the next few months, because the customer is going to let us know, what they expect, what they feel good about. And if they're just going to be communicating to us. I know they are. I would feel much better if I had this, or I'd feel much better if this were to happen. And then we're going to have to, we're going to have to be very receptive you know, to those comments. That's, as a matter of fact, whenever we reopen, we're going to do a nice little comment card, and it's going to you know, allow the customer to give us, you know, suggestions and feedback, you know, and then I'm asking for their email address so I can stay in touch with them.
General relationship marketing, right, Bill?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
strong right now, you know, the relationships that we have with our guests and social media and staying in touch and keeping your pulse on them, I think is going to be extremely beneficial at the end.
Yes.
So Charlie, there's one more question, and I know we're getting a couple minutes before wrapping up, but just one more question, and that is, given how quickly everyone was laid off, how do you plan on regaining trust among your employees?
Well, I'll take a shot at that. What we did is when we made the decision to close, or when the decision was made for us to close, we actually, I reached out to the Department of Employment and Workforce, and Dan Elsey, who's the executive director, and I asked him how we could facilitate that on behalf of our employees. So we actually made the application on behalf of all of our employees. So we did not say, you're terminated, good luck, and we'll see you down the road. You talked about, you know, relationships. We not only with the consumer, but more importantly with our employees. So we had our employees in queue, you know, from the day that we, you know, told them that we had to let them go. Wow. And you know, I think that, well, I know that that meant a lot to our employees. And I think that's why I had 100%, you know, response to an offer to rehire,
Nice.
you know, so.
Nice. Anyone else?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, right now we're reaching out to our managers once a week, and then the other managers that are still continuing to work, we're having them reach out to their associates just to make sure that everybody is doing well. We also made certain that Aramark opened up a virtual staffing center because, as I mentioned, there are other opportunities within the company right now that there are hiring and making certain that they're aware of those opportunities. And then also made certain that things that such as their benefits, which would continue, to make certain that they were not having any issues with those. But I agree, it's going to be a challenge. You know, nobody wanted to be put in this situation, and it's going to be a difficult thing. So when they get back, I think we're definitely going to have to recognize and be upfront with them about the challenges that they've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Ollie, last word.
I probably speak to my employees. I have 80-ish employees, 82. And I reach out, I see the managers every day, but I reach out to my staff. We even did 5 days of feeding them. So they, Sunday through Thursday, they could come right by the front of the hotel, and I would run out with plated meals for them. And we did that. The demand for that, once they received some money, it decreased, so we cut it out. But if I see that need again, I certainly will do it. You know, just like Bill and Clete, you know, our employees are our family, especially, you know, when you're looking at just one hotel or one restaurant. And all of mine are, you know, my housekeeping team, I have them come in at least once, so I see their face. We have a group chat with our food and beverage team, so that we stay in touch with them, and then give the front desk girls a call and gentlemen. And most of the time they're calling us, hey, when can I come back? When can I come back? Because we haven't laid off anyone. They're all still technically on the payroll. And hoping that, you know, when we need them, because we never know, we may have a surge with the military, we may have, and we're going to need people. So we've kept everybody on the payroll. I stay in touch with them, because I think that is certainly important because what you don't need is disconnect there, because if you have a disconnect with your team, you're gonna have a disconnect with your guests.
That's a good place to end the discussion. Thank you. I want to thank all the panelists, Bill Dukes, Holly Penny, Clete Myers, for helping to lead this discussion. I want to thank everyone for joining in today. Of course, thank Robert DiPietro for helping me host. Thank Georgia Patrizis for pushing all the buttons and pulling the strings in the background. And we're going to be having another forum on Monday, April 27th, beginning at 9 a.m. We'll have another group of industry specialists to help us with these discussion questions. So if you didn't get a chance to ask a question this time and you want to get some different perspectives, please join us on Monday the 27th. In the meantime, you guys have a great weekend. Be safe, be positive, and we hope to see you again soon.